I used to say I had a bad picker. In fact, I later heard lots of people in recovery use that phrase. I thought I made it up. I imagine it was almost like there was this broken lever inside of me. Everyone else had a functioning picker, but mine was defective. But over time, I realized the problem wasn't just that I picked unhealthy partners. The bigger problem was that I stayed. I usually knew long before the relationship ended that it wasn't healthy. I knew I wasn't being treated well. I knew it wasn't working, and yet I held on. Hi, I'm Barb Nangle, and I want to welcome you to my podcast, Fragmented to Whole: Life Lessons from 12-Step Recovery. If you're tired of feeling fragmented, emotionally overwhelmed, stuck in people-pleasing, approval-seeking, overthinking, or losing yourself in relationships, you're in the right place. This podcast is about recovery for real life. Through honest stories, practical tools, and lessons I've learned through 12-Step Recovery, boundaries work, and over 4 decades of personal growth, we explore what it actually takes to stop abandoning yourself and build a life that feels more authentic, grounded, and whole. We'll talk about things like boundaries, shame, family dysfunction, reparenting, emotional regulation, self-trust, recovery, and creating internal safety so you can stay connected to yourself even when life gets hard. I'm a boundaries coach, speaker, author, and woman in recovery, and my approach is raw, honest, practical, and sometimes a little bit, a lot, sweary. I'm also an avid beachcomber. My hands are basically always cold, so I wear fingerless gloves most of the year. And I still get weirdly excited when I spot license plates with my initials BN. I don't speak for or represent any particular 12-step fellowship, though I'm deeply grateful for the role recovery has played in my life. If you're ready for real talk, emotional healing, and practical tools to help you go from fragmented to whole, keep listening. This is episode 360, How I Learned to Trust Myself and Why Boundaries Were the Missing Piece. When I first got into recovery, one of the things I knew for certain was that I didn't trust myself. Specifically, I didn't trust myself when it came to choosing boyfriends. Now, there were other places too, but that was the standout for me. I used to say I had a bad picker. In fact, I later heard lots of people in recovery use that phrase. I thought I made it up. I imagine it was almost like there was this broken lever inside of me. Everyone else had a functioning picker, but mine was defective. But over time, I realized the problem wasn't just that I picked unhealthy partners. The bigger problem was that I stayed. I usually knew long before the relationship ended that it wasn't healthy. I knew I wasn't being treated well. I knew it wasn't working, and yet I held on. As trait 12 in ACA says, we'll do anything to hold on to a relationship or in order not to experience painful abandonment feelings. That was actually the line in the ACA laundry list, which is the 14 traits of an adult child, that I was like, yep, I'm in the right place. So having stayed in these relationships is a very different problem than having a bad picker. And as I've thought about it over the years, I've realized something even more important. The way I eventually learned to trust myself wasn't by trying to trust myself. I learned to trust myself through the boundary building process. And I don't just mean saying no more often or standing up for myself. I mean the entire process of building healthy boundaries. When I started recovery, I didn't really know myself. I didn't know what was okay and not okay with me. I didn't know what I liked, wanted, needed, or preferred in many situations. Now, of course, there were some things I knew, but there was a whole lot of Barb that was up for negotiation. If someone else wanted something different, I usually assumed their preferences mattered more than mine. I also didn't know where I ended and other people began. I didn't know where my responsibilities ended and someone else's responsibilities began. So the first part of building boundaries wasn't actually setting boundaries. It was discovering myself, or as we say in ACA, discovering my real identity. It was paying attention to what feels okay and what doesn't, what do I actually want here? I never asked myself that stuff before. What am I saying yes to when I really want to say no? And what matters to me? That was the beginning. And then came the harder part, acting on what I was discovering, setting limits with myself, setting limits with other people, and then following through on those limits, honoring my own preferences instead of constantly overriding them. And here's what I didn't realize at the time. Every single time I did that, I was collecting evidence. Evidence that I would listen to myself. Evidence that I would take myself seriously. Evidence that I would show up for myself. Trust grows through evidence. You don't wake up one morning and decide to trust yourself. You build trust the same way you build trust in any healthy relationship, through consistent experience over time. Every time I noticed what was true for me instead of ignoring it, every time I honored one of my limits, every time I followed through on something I'd committed for myself, and every time I chose not to abandon myself just to keep someone else comfortable, I was becoming someone I could rely on. And eventually, I realized something had shifted. I trusted myself. Not because I had become perfect or never made mistakes, but because I knew I would pay attention. I would tell myself the truth. I knew that even if I got something wrong, I would learn from it instead of abandoning myself. And that changed everything. Something else surprised me too. As I built trust with myself, I also became much better at trusting other people. Before recovery, I used to say, I trust people who give me a reason. Wait, I trust people until they give me a reason not to. Looking back, that was bullshit. I trusted people long after they had given me plenty of reasons not to. I kept hoping they would somehow become trustworthy. Like, I think I believed that if I just loved them enough, or if I understood them enough, or if I just gave them one more chance, eventually things would be different and they would become trustworthy. And when they disappointed me again, I blamed them for violating my trust. Today, I see my part much more clearly. My mistake wasn't trusting someone in the beginning. There's nothing wrong with extending trust. My mistake was continuing to extend trust long after the evidence told me I needed to reconsider. That was a boundary issue. I didn't quite understand that yet, that trust isn't something we decide, it's something we discern. Trust is a pattern. It's a pattern of behavior, and patterns can only be seen over time. Someone isn't trustworthy because they make a promise. They're trustworthy because over time, their actions consistently match their words. Because they follow through, take responsibility when they make mistakes, and they repair the damage when they've caused harm. Those things can't be determined after one conversation. They reveal themselves over time. That's why today I don't rush trust. And I don't withhold it either. I stay curious. I pay attention. I let people show me who they are, and I believe them. And when new information comes in, I adjust. If someone turns out not to be trustworthy, I don't beat myself up for trusting them. And I don't beat them up either. As I often say, this is info, not ammo. It's not ammunition to beat myself up or to beat the other person up. It's information that helps me make wiser decisions moving forward. For me, one of the greatest gifts of recovery is understanding that boundaries aren't just about protecting myself from other people. They're about becoming someone I can count on. Every time I stay connected to myself instead of overriding myself, every time I honor what's true for me and follow through on a commitment I've made to myself, I'm strengthening one of the most, if not the most important relationships I'll ever have, And that is my relationship with myself. If you've been struggling to trust yourself, maybe the answer isn't trying harder to believe in yourself. Maybe the answer is much simpler. Start paying attention to yourself. Then start honoring what you notice and start following through in small ways. Every time you do, you're giving yourself another reason to trust yourself, because self-trust isn't something you find or decide. It's something you build, one boundary at a time. Have you ever walked away from a conversation wondering, why did I say yes? Or agreed to do something you didn't want to do, even though you knew better in the moment? That's what I call overriding yourself. You don't betray yourself because you're weak. You betray yourself because in the moment, it feels safer to disappoint yourself than someone else. That is the pattern I help people change. My new course, Boundaries That Hold, How to Stop Overriding Yourself in Real Time, teaches you how to build internal safety that makes healthy boundaries possible. Early access is open now, so you can get immediate access to the first materials and lock in the lowest price before the full course launches. I'd love for you to join us. higherpowercc.com/boundariesthathold. Thanks for listening. If something here resonated, come connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm at Barb Nangle. I'd love to hear what you got from this episode. And if you'd like support building healthier boundaries in your personal, professional, or romantic life, you can book a free 30-minute Say No Without Guilt consultation at barbchat.net.